I just wanted to give you a little heads up. I'm doing something that I'm usually not prepared for, which means was using notes. But that's where we are today, so we'll work with that. So getting up in the morning was planned, but there were no guarantees. And here we are, right? So we've lived through the night and see another day. So it's something exciting in its own. But my morning started at like way before 5 o'clock. Somebody keep poking me to just get out of the bed. And usually I pay attention, and I moved on into that part. I had no idea. It went on for 2 hours. I got up, and nothing was going on, but somebody just wanted to wake me up in some fashion. So I started with the process. I wanted to pick out my clothes. Usually somebody else does. They tell me where to go, what to do. So everything was laid out. And as soon as I went to get ready in the bathroom, all I heard is, "I'm coming with you." And I'm like, so I just went on with my routine, just paying attention because that was my cue to open up. So when I came out and looked at my clothes again, they were changing my tie. So whoever is here, hopefully is connected to the tie, because that's what we're going to talk about. So picture this, a sky that soars like a breath of universe, a moon glowing with purpose, stars that don't just shine, but dance. Below, a village sleeps, unaware of the cosmic waves occurring around them. And rising up, a lone cypress tree bridging the gap between the earth and the heavens. And this is Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. That's what the title is. So when this was orchestrated, I was like, this is exciting. I was just following through, but that's my nature over my 23 some years of working with spiritualism and just paying attention. So it became interesting. A painting that is titled The Starry Night is an exception in a way because it was not born out of sheer creativity or somebody's excitement to create something. It came out of Vincent van Gogh's version of suffering, isolation, and a deep yearning to make sense of his life. And yet, he continued on to create that. Van Gogh created this artwork in 1889 from the window of an asylum, where he had been committed after a mental breakdown. But even in his personal darkness, he painted a masterpiece of light. So today we will explore this whole premise of the Starry Night. So I want us to step into that painting. So if you have seen a Starry Night, even a knockoff version of it, you would understand that part. Is there? So it reflects the soul's journey through chaos, yet seeking the meaning of life and rising into purpose. And almost 22 years ago, I went for a reading, and my first primary question was, what is my purpose? And my person that was reading me just rolled their eyes. Not to a negative point, they just rolled their eyes. So this painting represents something that really can be greater than where we are in our journey, but there is that unseen divine guiding force that always is pushing. Now it can push in any direction, but it is the connection that we create with that divine force and ourselves. Now these divine forces can be our guides and angels, or the God itself, or even our ancestors leading our way in some small way. And a part of that becomes very interesting. So the stars into this painting, they're not tiny specks, but they are represented with glowing yellow orb-like structures. And the part of that is they remind us that we are not alone. The divine forces are with us. And interjecting my personal experience with my astrophotography or my experiments with it, I have enjoyed over the last 6-7 years, stepping outside, looking at the sky, clean, clear, the little tiny stars out there. But they're little tiny lights that move. And I have seen falling stars, I've seen meteorites, but I've also seen airplanes at a distance that look like a star. So when you do the astrophotography, they show up in that thing. So they are not moving with the stars, they have a track of their own. So if you're doing long exposures, you can feel it. And I'm interjecting it because it's a whole different experience of a kind. And my enjoyment is also going back to the memory of my childhood. Some nights we would sleep outside underneath the sky. And our lullaby was to watch the stars. And I've shared this in other places, but this is just another share. And my parents were very intelligent in saying that you count that corner of the sky, somebody else counts the other corner. Least to know they move, and I'm not losing track of my stars. But that is a joyful memory of play. But that also put us to sleep. But when I'm reading about Starry Night and Vincent van Gogh, the whole experience is about the light. That even in darkness, some version of light exists. Even on a no-moon cycle, there's still light there, and you can feel it if you have that sense of connection there. So sometimes spiritual awakening doesn't come gently. It comes like a storm in the sky, shaking everything up, stirring things within us, inside, outside, and so on and so forth. Now, we can all understand from our journeys, it's not all just about us. Somebody else's life can shape those things within our own journey. So it doesn't have to be personally ours. It could be our family member, our neighbor, or some experience that is happening around us that can wake us up. If you have heard of this name, Silver Birch was channeled by Maurice Barbanel, and it has a big part of spiritualist stories in the beginning of spiritualism, pre-modern spiritualism. And I'm bringing up a quote from Silver Birch. The spirit world is not distance. It's not at a distance, it's a breath away, a heartbeat away, ever guiding us from within. So even the moments of when the hope is very bleak and non-existent, if you could tune into your own heartbeat, it has a vibrational core of itself. It will move you to something more. Now, for those that are interested in spiritual development, Silver Birch has 4 volumes of spiritual unfoldment. And they are nice reads, and they're inner journeys. And if you read, they are volume 1 through 4. And this is wonderful for anybody that is seeking that space for themselves. But we also need to remember through the Starry Night that chaos is not the opposite of spiritual growth. It's not the end point, but sometimes it is the beginning of something exceptional. So we are really feeling a little bit of exceptional times in our life, just around us, globally and consciously and economically and everything else. It's just a part. And I was enjoying this inspiration of saying, where my life is in all this. I can only imagine how each and every one of you are processing in that space. And for me, it's not about anything other than just being very present in that very moment of thought. How it stimulates me, how it speeds me up or slows me down. And that it's a game itself. So chaos is not the opposite of spiritual growth, it's often the beginning of it. Now the second element in this profound painting are the cypress trees. Now what was interesting is, there are a lot of people on Facebook or social media that I have never met. But we have grown to be in each other's journey in that space. And I'm presenting it very mindfully. So I picked up this piece of information as I was waking up out of my stupor from the night. And as I'm reading about the cypress, that person, my Facebook friend, had a quote about cypress tree as a sign of mourning. And that for me was already stimulating there. But then I was breaking this down in the cypress trees that are part of this painting. Now it is described that it stretches up like a flame, like a prayer. And in many cultures, the cypress is a symbol of life after death, a mourning, and the journey of the soul. So it is stretching between staying rooted and also trying to go as high and as towards the sky as possible. So cypress is really a towering tree in its natural environment. Spiritually, the cypress in Van Gogh's painting stands between the earth and the sky, and between the material and the spiritual world. It is the soul's yearning to connect between the two realms, to stay grounded and also stay elevated. That tree is you, it is me, and it is all of us. It is every soul searching for meaning, trying to grow, and trying to rise out of wherever their journey is. So I hope each and every one of us realizes we have to continue to keep that aspect alive in our lives. So when we practice any form of meditation, prayer, connecting with our spiritual forces and our spiritual compass, and just listening to our inner voice, we could become like a cypress, because it always allows to reach for the higher and higher and the higher spaces that we have access to. Now the other part of this image is the village, and which is a sleepy village. And below all of this, the village sleeps. It's peaceful, still, undisturbed by the cosmic show in the sky that is going at that time. What does that say to you? Now for me, it is a reminder that peace doesn't always come from perfect surrounding. It is the peace contained within each and every one of us. And that is where we have to access it, no matter if it's in a tiny drop or a big bucket. You have to go there to start from there. It comes from within. That even while the universe shifts and turns, we can remain grounded. Our homes, our inner sanctuaries can remain intact. They don't have to feel disturbed by the outside forces unless our mind chooses to go in that direction. So sometimes, even in the biblical aspect, I have found the Christ went into that little isolation to seek the light within rather than seek the answers and spaces externally. And I equate that we all have that access to. So part of that is a wonderful thing. This is where mindfulness lives, when we are internalizing these emotions and thoughts and fears and hesitation and reluctancy, or not knowing where we are going. That mindfulness is where trust lives. Spiritualism teaches us to find this place, not outside but inside. A place where the soul whispers, I am safe, I am still, and I am eternal. And I will say this, I was born and raised in a Christian environment, and I've enjoyed that environment to the max, and I felt as though it has prepared my soul's journey in a whole different manner, because I was always an inquisitive, inquiring mind, and as a part of that, to some other people's frustration. But at the same time, I never let that cease to be shut down. But I kept exploring myself, and spiritualism has really, really taken me in a tremendous amount of different directions, because I can sit on one thing and just go in several directions. And I'm going to bring something interesting. The song that we played, the first song, I was about ready to sing a whole different verses. Make sense? Yes? And I'm like, these are not the words that I remember with that tune, with a whole different words. I caught myself. But that's what I'm bringing up as a little placement there. That access to the internal cue is different for everybody. I have zero expectation at this point that I should emulate your inner journey, because I have my own to take. It's my spiritual DNA, and I have to explore it in that direction. So copying somebody has not become my fashion. It can inspire me, but when I go with that inspiration, I get to experience my version of it. And I am very, very confident you have to do the same thing. Even though you're same for the same 15 minutes of meditation, each and every one will come out with a different flow and different inspiration and different vibration from it. So, let's talk about the creator of this masterpiece. Van Gogh struggled deeply with mental health. He was alone, misunderstood, rejected by society. And it has been very well documented that in his lifetime he only sold one painting while he was alive. Yet he continued to paint. He poured his heart, his pain, and his hope into his work. And that is very interesting. Sometimes my disappointments really, really break me down. And it just is a spiraling curve of a whole different kind. What about you? Are there any places in your life that has really taken you off track? Has given you a little detour that you were really not wanting or not even expecting, but it was a detour. But at the same time, Van Gogh continued to create. There was something inside of him that was burning brighter, than the darkness itself. So he said, I often think that the night is more alive and more richly colored than the day. And I will vouch for that. And this is how I'm going to vouch for it. Lately, because of the spring, the birds are so active. There is a cardinal nesting around where I live, so I hear them from 5:49 all the way through 6:49 in the evening, light to light. And they just go sing their heads off. And I can identify they have different songs they sing, so I can understand they have that part of that. But in the night, what goes on is very interesting. There are owls that are hooting at a distance. There are crickets that are doing their little bugs are doing their thing. And then there are night roaming deer that are just in the middle of the woods trying to rustle the leaves and things. So if you sit quietly, those that have that space available, there's a lot goes on. It absolutely. Now, in the winter time, the sound carries, so if your hearing is keen, you can hear much farther than you would hear in the summertime, just the way sound carries. That's why if you have lived up north in any capacity, you can hear those things. Where I grew up, my enjoyment sometimes was listening to the trains at a distance because they were running. We had a railroad track where we could follow, I could follow the voice from one till it went off to the other side and vice versa. So there's a lot goes on. But even, this is all external to us. But in that quiet of the night, many parents have worried about their children, their provisions for their families. Many souls have taken the journey about their own struggles because that's where they find everything is just funneling down and maybe beating them up, maybe inspiring them. We don't know their stories, but there's a lot goes on. Now, my excitement also came from reading one of the texts I was reading, and then I got to explore it. There is a concept that sometimes our souls are going in different dimensions, learning and taking workshops and classes and getting familiar with that. And I was very excited to it, but at the same time what I was exploring is, the thought was, yes, you go out of your body when you're sleeping. Part of the physics has to rest and recover. The soul doesn't need that. The spirit doesn't need that. And the discernment was, it's going somewhere where you're about to go or have an experience as a choice into the next life. So in spiritualism, this reincarnation or life after life sometimes is a very critical conversation. But once you are into that space of everything is connected, you have to understand the spirit and the soul is getting ready for the next station. So if you're waking up fatigued and exhausted, just know some journey has taken place. You have to just allow to be instead of looking for that. Now if you're physically ill and the body is recovering, that's a whole different component to it. But if you're healthy and you're just in a normal progress, and if your mind is waking up sluggish, just know you've been someplace. Now, those that are seekers would like to know what the details are, where they've been, what's going on. Sometimes those whys and things are not easy to answer. So, how profound is that he saw life in the darkness? Starry Night was painted not from a place of success or recognition, but from his burning fire to express his soul. And that's the question, one of the questions I want all of you to understand. Regardless of your age, time, space, continuum, do you still have that purposeful passion burning within yourself? It never dies. It gets dormant, it recedes, but it never goes away. Now, there is such a thing also that has been coming for the last month in my work and my observation is sometimes we all get purposed out. Which means is if you've done all your purposes, maybe it is time to just exist and just be. There's no need to seek a purpose. Because if you go seeking something, you just never know what's waiting. So if you feel, I've done this, I've been present, I've been completing everything. So don't disturb your bliss if you're at that space. The aspect of co-creation will naturally occur, and if you were to renew, reconnect with a purpose, it will find you. There will be a point where you really don't have to actively seek. If you're present within yourself, then it works in its own natural progression. Is there. So what are the spiritual lessons that we can take from the Starry Night and Van Gogh story. You may do your own research when you go home if you're feeling inspired. But are you aware of the light hidden inside of you? What masterpiece are you wanting to paint your life with? Even while the world sleeps on, are you willing to be holding a vigil for yourself? And it doesn't have to be in the awakened state, but the intention and the purpose can lead the way. So the spiritual lessons that I feel this speaks to me in my version of it, maybe it speaks to you in your perceptive way, is that we are more than our circumstances. We always have that option. And if we choose to be our circumstances, that's a choice we are making. But we are more than our circumstances. We are connected to something greater because something outside of us is what participates with us for co-creation. Inside, outside, externally, above and beyond. And it goes on in that way. Our soul is capable of beauty even when the world around it is silent or not responding. It still is a thing of beauty itself. So I hope somewhere in your own journeys you can look back. There's so much beauty around you, inside of you, that can be appreciated, which leads to say, attitude of gratitude. Because sometimes we don't get to see our own light. We become very mechanical, we become process-based, and so on and so forth. In spiritualism, we believe the soul is eternal, that each of us is guided, supported, and awakened over and over again. In spiritualism, we believe the soul is eternal, that each of us is guided, supported, and awakened over and over again. Van Gogh may not have known it, but his soul was expressing something divine, something timeless. And he carried on with his work. So what do we do with all this conversation that we've had? I have to do my part, and my hope is only that you will do your version of it, you will do your part. We become our own artists of our thoughts, our choices, and our legacies. And I will say this, standing up at the podium and doing this speaking is always, reality is waiting out for me to get me as soon as I go there. That invisible reality is ready to shake my hand and say, you made statements, you made claims, now prove it. Let's put you to test. And it has happened multiple times, and I'm happy it happens because I get to test my own depth of it. So whether your sky right now is clear or stormy or occluded or whatever, just know their stars are still there. And as you may have heard through anecdotal saying, there will be a time we all will become stars. So where is that place for me in that big sky? What kind of light I'm going to emit? It's not an ego serving, but it's a thought. Emma Hardinge Britton, which is a very profound pillar of spiritualism, modern day spiritualism, said, and I quote, "Spiritual progress is the unfolding of the soul. It cannot be forced, but it can be chosen." And that choice is available to the soul after crossing over. We have choice. Where we go, who we come back to, as what we want to come back to. All those choices are there. So paint your starry night. Maybe use the little touch of kindness, a little dab of courage, and with your own spirit, your life is already a masterpiece. So let it speak to you in its best way possible. And in closing, I would say, as Van Gogh once said, what would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything? You have the courage, you have the stars, you have your paintbrush. What's holding you back? Now paint. Thank you for listening.